Get your ears wrapped around the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. All the scoop you need to know from college basketball to the NBA and even March Madness. News of your rising stars. Topics on and off the hardwood. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast.
Welcome everyone to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, Pauline, and there's a lot going on in the world of sports, especially in the world of basketball. This is a great time of the year. We have just a lot going on. As you guys know, March is definitely my favorite time as far as basketball season is concerned. But right now is a lot of fun too, because we're in the playoffs now of the NBA, and some teams are already done. The Warriors already with a sweep again. Oh, well, not again, with a sweep. And we're going to get into that. We're going to get into the scores from the games last night, as well as the games to look forward to as well for the rest of the week. There is some news, some Rajon Rondo news. We might even be able to get into some Pat Riley news. There's a lot just going on in the world of basketball, because right now is the time where teams are trying to make some changes if they're not in the playoffs and things like that in their off season. So they're making a lot of big decisions, and then there's teams like, as we know, in the playoffs, and they're not only having to make big decisions as far as game time is concerned, but they're not really too worried right now about the off season. We're focused on winning games and taking it deep into the playoffs. So that's what we want to get into today to start off. So we're going to start off with the scores from last night. So first off, we had the Milwaukee Bucks take on the Toronto Raptors in Toronto last night. The Bucks fell to Toronto 93-118, thus making the series in favor of the Raptors. They're 3-2 right now in this series over the Bucks. So definitely getting that edge. Now, Ben and I, we discussed in the podcast from yesterday that, Game 5s are very pivotal as far as what is going to happen for the rest of the series, typically. So we are looking forward to that. So right now it's in the favor of Toronto. I really want the Bucks to take this series. That's just me. I like the Bucks this year. I like what they've been doing. I like Giannis. Of course, last night, Giannis, he had 41 minutes, had 30 points. So not a bad night for him. He was 12 of 19 last night, shooting 6 of 9 from the free throw line. So a very good game. Of course, I expected nothing less from Giannis last night. So he definitely played the most minutes. He was a top scorer for the Bucks last night. He had a big contribution as well from the rest of his teammates. The bench did really they were really good as well. So the Bucks last night, they shot 50%. So not bad, not bad. The Raptors just a little bit more to get the job done. We had Serge Ibaka last night. He had 19 points with 1 of 3 from the three-point line. So not bad there. Kyle Lowry, he had 16 points and 10 assists in that game last night. So we can see why, As a whole, the team was shooting 57%. They were 44 from the three-point line. So a pretty solid game for the Raptors. You can see why they pulled away with that win. Their entire bench contributing last night with some minutes. Everybody seeing some tick last night. Not a lot of tick for some of them, but, everybody getting some minutes and some stuff happening, some free throws out there. So not a bad game for the Toronto Raptors. They are in the edge, so they're going to have to win one more to seal the deal. This could potentially go to a game 7. We'll see if the Bucks can, just take this one as, chop it up as a loss and set forward for the next one. So we'll see. We'll see how this goes. I love it when series go to a game 7. It's a lot of fun. It's exciting. A lot of that back and forth is definitely a lot of fun and, just adds to that playoff atmosphere, especially if you're a fan that goes to the game. Now, moving on to the Washington Wizards and the Atlanta Hawks. So now this series is tied 2-2 with the Atlanta Hawks taking it last night at home in Atlanta, 101-111 over the Wizards. Not a bad game for the Wizards as well, but just, not enough to get it done. Both the teams were shooting okay. The Wizards were shooting about 42%, whereas the Hawks were shooting just 44%. So, both teams not shooting crazy great, but not shooting necessarily terribly either. So John Wall, he played 41 minutes for the Wizards, contributed 22 points. And then we have Brady Beal. He had a pretty good game last night. In that loss, he had 39 points, so he played a huge chunk of the game last night as well and contributed 32 points to the game. So not bad for Bradley in last night's loss to the Hawks. But then on the Hawks side of things, everyone pretty much contributed pretty much evenly, so that definitely helped secure that. Dwight Howard last night, 30 minutes, he contributed 16 points. So, like I said, a very, very good game for the Hawks. It's tied 2-2, so anything could happen in this series now with, being tied. Dwight Howard last night, 30, so he had 15 rebounds, so a strong game from him in the inside. That's definitely going to help them, if they want to continue to win some games and at least take this series, getting that deep help from Dwight Howard is definitely going to help them. So definitely, like I said, so the series is tied 2-2. Not bad. Anything can happen. I don't want to say it because you guys know I jinx every single team that I say that I hope wins, but I'm hoping that the Wizards take this series. I'm for the Wizards taking this series. I like the Washington Wizards. I've been liking them throughout the entire season. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with this one because, when it's anybody's ball game. They both won 2-2. It can go either way. There's not really a better team out of a best out of this series. So it could go literally any way. Just whoever's going to dig it out and pull that heart out. So anyways, so the Golden State Warriors, we're getting ready to cut it to a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to jump into the sweep from the Golden State Warriors and, how Damian Lillard has what he has to say about that loss in that series to Golden State. So definitely a lot to still get into. We need to discuss as well. LeBron James Harden, Rajon Rondo, some surprise here. A little bit update on Rondo and his injury. We'll take a look at that when we get back from this quick break. You guys are listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, Pauline, and we will be right back.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back, everyone, to the Golden State Media Concepts basketball podcast. So last night there was one more game, and the final game for the Portland Trailblazers. They fell in a sweep by the Golden State Warriors last night, 128-103. A game that could have been, could have ended in the first quarter. I'm sorry to say it, but the Golden State Warriors, they scored 45 points in their first quarter. So definitely not only took the lead, but pretty much secured the lead in that game last night. Definitely came out as strong as you could possibly want your squad to come out as far as that is concerned. Steph Curry last night, he had 37 points, 7 rebounds, and 8 assists in that win. He played for 30 points. Draymond Green excuse me. I just realized what I said. Steph Curry played for 30 minutes. Draymond Green played the most of the game last night with 33 minutes. He contributed 21 points last night. He was 5 of 8 from the three-point line, so not too shabby for Draymond Green last night. He had 12 rebounds as well. 6 rebounds. Wow, I'm just all over the place with this tonight. So Draymond Green last night, 21 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, 3 blocks. So a really good overall game for Draymond Green. Kevin Durant, not too bad for him as well. He was 2 of 2 from the three-point line. He had 10 points in that win last night. Klay Thompson, 18 points last night. Definitely a strong game from the Splash Brothers in that win. Everyone in, except for Sean Livingston, who was out for a sprained finger, recorded some minutes last night. So not bad. An entire group effort from the Golden State Warriors in that win against the Trailblazers. They shot 53% from the field and 58% from the three-point line. So definitely doing what the Golden State Warriors do best, getting in those threes last night. The Trailblazers last night, Damian Lillard played 42 points. So definitely giving it his all and laying it out on the floor last night. He was a top scorer for his team. He had 34 points in that win last night, 1 rebound and 1 assist for his squad. So not bad. Damian Lillard definitely giving out what he can and doing his do best, but they were only shooting 38% last night, and that's really not going to do it against a team like the Golden State Warriors. They shot 33% from the from the three-point line, 82% from the free throw line. So definitely doing well on free throws, but couldn't finish anywhere else on the court last night. So that definitely hurt them. And, it's tough when you're going up against the Golden State Warriors in that first round. Definitely. Damian Lillard, he did say last night as well, after that loss to the Warriors, he said, and I quote, "You have to be obsessed with that because you know that they're so good that they're going to be there. That's who you're going to have to get through to get where you want to get to. That's what it is." So, basically he's saying that if they ever want to, especially in the very next, the foreseeable future, get past or get deep into the playoffs, you're always going to have to the potential of you going against the Golden State Warriors is very, very high. You're always going to have to play against them. If somehow, some way they were able to get deep into the playoffs and match up with them in the semifinals, you're still going to have to go up against the Golden State Warriors. So definitely it makes sense. And I'm glad that he kind of understands that, just because, and I don't know, people were like saying, oh, he's obsessed with the Warriors. No, you got to be, and like he said, you got to be obsessed with that, because that's their biggest challenge. That's their main challenge. If you can get past the Warriors, then, you can get ahead and get to where you want to go. They were 41-41 to get in that 8th seed for the playoffs. So not exactly the best of shape, but just enough to get into the playoffs and things like that. So he's right. I think that he is definitely right. They played against the Warriors in the second round. So, that's not, he knows that's what he's talking about. We're going to have to get past them if we ever want to go deep into the playoffs. He did say of the year, he told ESPN last night that, quote, I wouldn't say it was a successful year. We got tested, and I think we answered the bell. I felt like we showed our true colors by the way we fought, but I wouldn't say successful. I think it was growth, a year of growth for us. So, I like it. I like it. I understand where he's coming from. I think everything that he's saying is true. I totally and 100% agree with it. So I think that I think it's good. And I get where he's coming from. Kevin Durant, he said of playing against the Trailblazers in the years to come, he said it's going to be fun playing against these guys in the next few years, because, they're competitive. The Trailblazers are, and they don't want to, they want to be deep in the playoffs. So he knows that that's a matchup that's going to be coming up. So it's going to be a lot of fun. He enjoys playing against them. So definitely a tough loss for my guy, Damian Lillard, in that loss to the Golden State Warriors. But then again, when Steph Curry turns it up in the fashion that he did last night, it's really, really hard to slow him down at all. So anyway, so taking a look at tonight, we're shifting gears into tonight. There's a lot of stuff to discuss tonight. A lot of these players surprising us. Some injuries, of course, to talk about, because as we know, we're getting deep into the playoffs. This is when one of the major factors is keeping everybody healthy. Basically just making sure your squad is your squad and that you're not losing key players basically anytime now until the end of your season, because now is a very pivotal time when it comes to, this could be deal breakers as far as what happens for your team. We discussed this in the podcast yesterday with Ben, especially like, for example, Blake and the Clippers. Losing Blake for the rest of the postseason hurts. It hurts really, really bad. And that's something that you don't really expect. It is something that could happen, but you don't want it to happen. You don't expect it to happen. You draw up your game plan. You draw up what you're going to do, your matchups and everything with your key players in the game. So it's really difficult and can oftentimes, like I said, be a major deciding factor in whether or not your team is able to progress, and if they do progress, how well they will do past that next stage. So definitely a lot to get into as far as an injury report on some of the guys. A new report on LeBron James and also Paul George in Game 4, and some things that, that were found after the fact. So we're going to jump into that. It doesn't matter, of course, because the game is over and nothing's going to change with that. But just some things that we found, and that, because there's always those fans that are like, no, that shouldn't have counted, or, well, if the refs would have called this, that was a pivotal play in the game. Sometimes it's true. Sometimes it's not just a fan's illusion for their squad. Every once in a while, it really is true. So we're going to get into that after we cut it from this last break at the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. I'll be right back.
Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
And welcome back, everyone, to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, Pauline, and we are getting ready to wrap up this show. This is the last segment of the podcast, but there, of course, is some basketball to discuss before we get into all of that. So tonight, we have a couple of games. We have, of course, like we said, Game 5 of the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Houston Rockets. Big Russ, he's averaging 31 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists. But it's just not enough right now. It hasn't been enough right now against James Harden and the Rockets. James, he's averaging 29 points, 8 rebounds, and 11 assists. So right there with him, he's doing, his thing. The Rockets, and we've discussed this as far as the situation for Russell and Oklahoma City. The Rockets are just a better overall team. They just got more to work with, more guys in that puzzle to complete the pieces. So, or more more pieces in that puzzle to complete the picture. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Whatever. So Houston leads the series 3-1. As we know, they're playing at home. It's Game 5. It's going to be wild. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to start at 5 p.m. on TNT. Definitely a game that you don't want to miss. It's going to be, I'm sure, filled with a lot of passion too. It's going to be wild. It's going to be crazy. I already know. So I'm sure, despite the naysayers, the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to give it their all and fight and lay it all out on the court. Even if it is the last game, that's fine. I'm sure they are still not going to go down without a tough fight. So definitely looking forward to that game. That's going to start off our playoff games tonight. And then we're going to jump over to San Antonio. Mike Conley of the Grizzlies and Kawhi Leonard of the Spurs are facing off for their Game 5. They're actually tied, however, 2-2 in that series, the Grizzlies and the Spurs. So I'm definitely looking forward to that because these games with the Grizzlies and the Spurs have been a lot of fun. Definitely a lot of fun. A lot of back and forth movement between these two teams, especially during the games. Definitely keeping the fans on our toes. Definitely what I like seeing in playoff basketball is, close games and tight games. It's a lot of fun to watch those. So the Grizzlies and the Spurs are going to start today at 6 p.m. That's going to be on NBA TV for all y'all that want to watch that one. And then to wrap up the evening on TNT at 7:30 tonight, it's going to be the Utah Jazz and the Clippers. So I kind of touched on this slightly a little bit earlier right before the break, but so we know Clay is out. The series is tied 2-2, so this is Game 5 as well for the Jazz and Clippers series. They're going to be playing in LA at the Staples Center, so home court advantage for the Clips. But, it's tough when a big piece, a big player is just not there. It's definitely difficult for you and can be it's just hard. It's really, really hard for that. So, definitely a tough break for, I feel bad. I really, really do, because it really is a tough break for the Clippers. They just can't catch a break. So anyways, so tonight's stuff to look forward to. So James Harden says that he has a sore ankle, but despite that, he is for sure ready for Game 5. He got some treatment all day yesterday and things like that to get ready and prepared for tonight. He's 5 of 16 from the field right now. Well, as far as Game 4 was concerned on Sunday, so definitely a little bit low for him. He only had 16 points in that win on Sunday, but it's not all that he could do. You know, he knows that, and he even said it's a playoffs. Everybody is banged up, so you got to find a way to fight through it and help your teammates win games. He did also continue on to say that for him, it's not always just about the scoring, and that, scoring a lot of points is good, but as long as he's contributing by making the right plays and getting other guys their shots, then everybody is in a good rhythm. He said that's all that matters, which is true. You know, and that's one thing that I like about, and, you know, this kind of shows his maturity. We talked about this earlier in the season, how this season really James Harden has really matured just mentally when it comes to the game of basketball, because, you know, just because you're off doesn't mean that you have to continue shooting the ball. You can make contributions elsewhere. You can get other guys the ball. You can do strong on defense. You can make plays elsewhere that's going to help your team win. So that's what I like to hear from you, James. You know, I've been not anti-James. I have not been anti-James. I just been pro-Russell because of, you know, the historic season that he's had this season. But James, I like it. I like it a lot. So, you know, he is the MVP candidate right now. He finished second in the league in scoring and first in assists. So, you know, and the only game he missed this season was because he was sick with the flu. So he's definitely giving it his all. You can't, you know, I don't think I have that big of an argument as of late. There's not too much for me to stand on right now. But anyway, so then let's take a look. Rajon Rondo, he did not have his cast on. He was out of his cast yesterday, but will not play tomorrow night, Wednesday, for Game 5. They're set to be starting Isaiah Cannon. So definitely, you know, something to look forward to. I don't know. They ruled him out for Game 5, did not say he was out for Game 6 or the possible Game 7. They haven't gone that far, so we will see. They did decide to remove the cast because it said that the wrist tendon has quieted down. It's not inflamed and things like that. He is, however, still in a splint for his thumb. So, I don't know, Bulls. We were saying that was a big piece for you guys as far as what was missing in that flow for the Bulls, and that it was going to have to fall on the shoulders of veteran Dwayne Wade to kind of keep that momentum going. So we will see. We will see. Perhaps potential return of Rondo before even perhaps the end of this series, and maybe before the end of the year if the Bulls manage to get past the Celtics. So, and then one last thing before we wrap up, the NBA did announce that there were two crucial traveling violations that did not get called in the closeout win of the Cavaliers over the Indiana Pacers. So according to the league's last 2-minute report, LeBron James moved his pivot foot at the start of his dribble before sinking the three-pointer with with a minute and 14 seconds remaining in the fourth quarter. And then also Paul George had a shot at potentially a three-pointer that would tie the game with 4.6 seconds remaining that should not have counted because Paul George also moved his foot there. So, you know, he did end up missing that three-pointer anyways, and LeBron James grabbed that rebound and was fouled. He was 1 of 1 for the free throws after that to seal the game. So, you know, it could have went either way. Who knows? They're saying that still should not have counted even if it went in. But they're also saying that Braun, he traveled before shooting that three-pointer a minute beforehand. So who knows? So the last 2-minute report is basically a report that provides the officiating crew's fouls and rulings that were accurate or inaccurate in a games whose margins are within 5 points at the 2-minute mark of the fourth quarter. However, even after the findings are released, it does not change the outcome of the game, of course, because, you know, the game is done. The final whistle has been blown. So I just thought that was really interesting because, like I said, there's always those times when we're like, no, if the ref wouldn't have missed that foul or would have called this 2 seconds back ago, you know, as fans, we get riled up when we say it's the official's fault, you know, sometimes there are little discrepancies that perhaps could have changed the outcome of the game. But anyway, so that's going to do it for this episode of the podcast. You have been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, Pauline. Tomorrow, Ben will be in the studio to give you guys an update on all great things in the world of basketball after tonight. So we'll talk to you guys next time.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.